These two are arguably the strongest fusions we see in the series, yet we don't get to see them much. Well, I'm here to demystify these mega fusions for you, and as always, I'll be talking about their personalities, powers, and the real-world gems they're named after. What's up, guys? I'm Chris Carr, and today I'm talking to you about Alexandrite and Obsidian from Steven Universe. Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to all of our donors on Patreon, especially our super nerd sponsor of the day, Lauren Linton. Thanks to gems like Lauren, our team is still able to work together even though we're apart. So thanks, Lauren. If you want to help out, check out our Patreon page and see if a donation tier works for you. We'll thank you with shout outs, swag, behind the scenes, and more. And if you're looking for a little something for yourself, click that link to TeePublic in this video's description and get yourself something purty. Now, on to the gems. Let's first start with Alexandrite. In my opinion, Alexandrite is the most superhero-looking fusion we've seen in the entire series. The magenta skin, the visor, the unitard-looking outfit. She looks like a badass. Yet when we first meet her in the episode Fusion Cuisine, she doesn't seem like the most stable gal. Let's just get this out there. Alexandrite is a cluster. No, not that one. I mean, she is a mess. This six-armed, two-mouthed giant woman has a lot going on. The three sets of arms remind us that this is a combination of three different gems. Well, four if you want to get technical about garnet. The double mouth feature is downright terrifying, and for some reason, probably the tongue, I guess, always personally reminds me of Alien or Venom. There's something very buggy about this one, what with the dorsal oculi lenses on her forehead like many flying insects possess, and her segmented jointed body. Ooh. Physically, I mean, it's a pretty unsettling design. But I think that's the point. This isn't necessarily a cohesive fusion. When we first meet her, Alexandrite isn't a well-blended mix of the gems' personalities. Each of their personalities are displayed at different times, can communicate with one another, and can fight each other as well. As they become more and more unstable, their individual identities become more and more prominent, like Pearl's fear of food, Amethyst's combative nature, or Garnet's lack of social grace. We see all this weirdness on full display in Fusion Cuisine. After Garnet pretends to be Steven's mom on the phone, Connie's folks request to meet Steven's parents for dinner. Having them meet Greg is easy. Having them meet his three space rock adoptive moms might be a little strange. Most families just have one or two moms, but Steven doesn't want to leave anyone out. So what's a half gem, half human to do? Ask his family to fuse, of course! The three crystal gems reluctantly fuse to form Mondo Giant Woman Alexandrite, who can't keep it together in front of Connie's parents, and ultimately defuses right before their eyes. Side quest, when they unfuse, you can see Ruby and Sapphire for a split second before they grab hands. So there's this great little hint as to what Garnet is in this episode. Ugh, I love that detail. This sort of imbalance and chaos seems to only be limited to dinner parties, though. When we see Alexandrite later in episodes like Super Watermelon Island, she's a force to be reckoned with. According to Garnet in Guide to the Crystal Gems, Alexandrite is, quote, an incredible force on the battlefield. When Pearl, Amethyst, and I fuse together with a singular goal, we are unstoppable. But when the singular goal is a dinner party with a human family, we are very confused, and we are very confusing, and we are very sorry. Alexandrite is a bruiser. But despite her ferocity, she does offer to try to settle things without fighting first. We see this when they confront the fusion Malachite. As the series goes on, and the gems become more in sync with one another, Alexandrite appears to be fused more effortlessly as the gems work more harmoniously with one another. In fact, the Steven Universe Future episode Bluebird shows that the gems no longer need to do a fusion dance in order to form Alexandrite. We'll assume that Alexandrite has your run-of-the-mill gem abilities and traits such as durability, enhanced strength, and of course the ability to further fuse. With her huge stature, she's able to cover a lot of ground very quickly. If you consult the Guide to the Crystal Gems, Alexandrite's weapon is simply listed as all of them. Sure enough, Alexandrite has access to every gem she's made up of's weapons, and is well-versed with all of them. By far the coolest ability that Alexandrite possesses, though, is her ability to breathe fire out of her second mouth. At the time, this just seemed like a really rad new power, but I now feel like this ability was foreshadowing what Obsidian was going to be capable of, and foreshadowed their fiery power. In real life, Alexandrite is often called an emerald by day, ruby by night. That's because it's a rare color-changing varietal of the mineral cryopsyberyl. Cryopsyberyl is the third hardest frequently encountered natural gemstone, a fact that I love since this fusion is extra tough and can take on literally harder opponents. Alexandrite was originally discovered in Russia's Ural Mountains in the 1800s and was named after Tsar Alexander II. Supposedly, it was discovered by emerald miners who noticed that the gems shone red by their campfire then green again in the light of day. It became a highly coveted gem and was worn by the Russian aristocracy. Since then, it's been found in Sri Lanka, East Africa, and Brazil. Along with pearls and moonstones, Alexandrite is one of the birthstones of June. The two zodiac signs associated with the month of June are the Gemini and Cancer. Gemini seems to make sense for this fusion. If you subscribe to astrology, those who fall under the Gemini sign tend to have different personalities within them, and you're never quite sure which one you'll be facing. With her dual faces and too many cooks internal situation going on, I'd say that fits Alexandrite to a T. Alexandrite is also the stone of choice for 55th wedding anniversaries. Take a note, Ruby and Sapphire. You're going to spend an anniversary fused with your buds. Weird. Alexandrites have long been associated with good fortune and love. It is believed to bring balance between the physical and spiritual world. The gem is said to promote positive self-esteem and togetherness, as well as developing inner energy changes that correspond with age and maturity. I find this notion to be pretty interesting when compared to the character Alexandrite. Obviously, this isn't a particularly harmonious fusion when we first meet her, and there's a lot of energy and chaos within her as the gems bicker within. But over time, she becomes a symbol of the three gems' togetherness and love. I think her stabilization is really indicative of what the real gem supposedly can help with. Now, let's move on to Obsidian. Obsidian is the massive fusion that forms when Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, and Steven all join forces. This is Garnet's only known fusion who doesn't wear some sort of variation of her visor. With their 8 arms, charcoal skin, 4 fiery eyes, and dual faces, this is a gem you know not to mess with. The seam between the two faces, or I guess between the face and sort of mask, can open just like a lid, revealing a third mouth with fangs. This mouth is filled with lava and is where Obsidian draws their sword from. Though we don't really see Obsidian in the flesh until Change Your Mind, we've seen glimpses of the fusion since episode 1. She's the statue of the Crystal Temple, and her hand is seen at the end of every episode where Steven's laundry is hanging. We don't know much about Obsidian's personality, since they only roar in their one and only appearance, but Obsidian clearly cares about others, since we can see them save Connie. And of course, we see that weird Connie-Obsidian fusion from Steven's dreams in future. I would love for you guys to weigh in on what the heck that was about. We do know a bit of lore surrounding Obsidian, though. Apparently, they helped save the founder of Beach City back in Rose Quartz's day. 200 years prior to the events of Steven Universe, Captain William Dewey, an ancestor of former Mayor Bill Dewey, founded the town after narrowly surviving an attack from some sea monster thanks to Obsidian's intervention. The captain and his crew were placed safely on what would eventually become Beach City. According to Pearl, the crystal gems and Captain Dewey were friends. The sea monster that almost took down the ship was clearly some kind of corrupted gem fusion, based on Jamie's play Beach City or Bust, as seen in the episode Historical Friction. Like Alexandrite, we can assume that Obsidian has your standard set of gem abilities, such as enhanced strength, durability, and the ability to further fuse. Obsidian also seems to have stronger than your average gem ability to scale surfaces with their bare hands. Obsidian is able to form the hilt of a sword by combining Pearl's spear with Steven's shield, Garnet's gauntlet, and Amethyst's whip. Obsidian then creates the blade of the sword by opening up that third fiery mouth and using the lava to smelt a blade. As this sword is made of liquid hot magma, it can slice through nearly anything. As we've discussed with characters like Sapphire, Rebecca Sugar drew inspiration from the Legend of Zelda games, and Obsidian seems to be no exception. That sword of theirs is very similar to the Flame Blade from Breath of the Wild, as both are similar in color and ability. Obsidian's ability to create and store lava within their own body may be a reference to the fact that actual obsidian is a type of volcanic glass that forms when lava cools. And giving this fusion a sword makes sense. The Aztecs made obsidian blades for their swords and for their arrowheads and spear tips. Throughout history, the material has been used for cutting and piercing. Even today, obsidian is used in modern surgery since it can produce cutting edges that are thinner and sharper than the best surgical steel. These blades are used in scalpels for some of the most precise surgery. I think we've had like 3 fusions that could potentially be inspired by Kali, but Obsidian definitely has those vibes as well. Kali is commonly portrayed as having ash or blue skin, many arms, and long black hair, and is a goddess of war. Obsidian fits the bill, as she's the big gun the heroes form when things are really dire and they need to bring in the heavy artillery. Obsidian is relatively easy to carve, and artists have used it to make figurines, statues, and masks for thousands of years. I am really hoping that's why Alexandrite and Obsidian had the dual faces. The gem's formation of Obsidian to take on the diamond mech is really fun because in real life, diamonds and Obsidian differ wildly, structurally speaking. Diamonds are crystalline minerals, whereas obsidian isn't even a mineral. It's mineral like glass, technically igneous rock, and completely lacks a crystal structure since the lava that forms it cools before any crystals can form. It sort of reinforces this idea that these gems are different than their appointed leader and are made of something entirely different. If you subscribe to crystal healing, obsidian is said to be a mysterious crystal that works like a spiritual vacuum to rid you of unwanted negativity. It's associated with protection, security, and shielding the wearer from bad energy. These traits make sense for our fusion. After all, forming obsidian effectively takes a great deal of trust and security among the crystal gems. Plus, obsidian is who they call in to take care of big bad problems and protect others. And what better way to try and repeal the negative white diamond than a gem that's said to ward off negativity? Now, of course, these are just some things I noticed about these two fusions. The question is, what do you guys have to say about them? Hit me up with your hot takes in the comments below. Thanks again to all of our donors on Patreon, to TeePublic, and all of you Steven Universe fans. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and hit that bell so we can keep talking tunes with each other. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you, Space Cowboy.